In this module, we are going to talk about an often overlooked yet vital component to optimal performance, hydration. Hydration, as I'm sure you're aware, is important all the time, but even more so if you have games or practices taking place on hot days or if you have multiple games or races in one day. It is imperative to properly hydrate before, during, and after hard efforts. You won't be doing yourself any favors if you go into a big game dehydrated. Let's talk about why you should care about being properly hydrated. Did you know that dehydration can cause fatigue, weakness, nausea, headache, cramping, lightheadedness, and tiredness? Those certainly don't sound like things that will improve your performance. Did you know that when you start to feel thirsty, you might already be dehydrated? Isn't that crazy? I would be willing to bet that most of us forget to drink water unless we feel thirsty. A good way to monitor the state of your hydration is to monitor the color of your urine. Light-colored urine means you're hydrated. Dark-colored urine means you're dehydrated. Now, I know it sounds kind of gross, but trust me, it works. There are a couple caveats here, though. Remember that your urine will be darker first thing in the morning because you will have just gone several hours without drinking. Also, if you take a multivitamin, you may notice that shortly after, your pee is almost like a weird neon yellow color. Don't worry about that. That is just the body excreting extra B vitamins. So let's talk about hydration related to performance. Your goal should be to lose no more than 2% of your body weight through sweat during a hard game or practice. Once you pass this 2% mark, your performance will start to suffer. Now I know what you're thinking. 2%? Really? How am I supposed to figure that out? The easiest way to figure it out is to actually weigh yourself right before and right after practice on a hot day. So let's try an example. Let's say a soccer player weighs herself before practice on a hot day, and she weighs 150 pounds. After practice, she weighs herself, and she weighs 147 pounds. This means that over the course of this hot, sweaty, sticky practice, she lost 3 pounds of sweat. If she doesn't rehydrate, she can certainly expect to see performance consequences of this excessive sweat loss. So what should she do? Athletes should consume 2 to 3 cups of water for each pound lost. So the soccer player from this example would actually need to drink about 6 to 9 cups of water to get back to a properly hydrated state. Now, I don't want you to go chugging 9 cups of water all at once, as that would be extremely uncomfortable. Just concentrate on getting it in with over the next few hours. I know this probably sounds like a lot of work, and of course you're not going to bring yourself a scale every practice. It's just not feasible. I would just maybe do it once or twice to kind of get an idea of how much you sweat. Once you do that, you'll be able to kind of monitor your activity and sweat level, and you won't need to weigh yourself every time. And remember, we all have different sweat rates, so you may actually need to drink way more water during practice than one of your teammates. And I also do want to say, if seeing the number on the scale is triggering for you, please don't use the weighing technique. Please just monitor the color of your urine. So let's say after a particularly hot day, you notice that your urine is very dark. Kind of keep track of how much water you're drinking and see how long it takes for your urine to get back to a light color. And using that method, you'll learn how much you need to drink to keep yourself properly hydrated. Ideally, you want to hydrate before, during, and after hard games and practices so you don't lose as much sweat as that soccer player did in our example. So how do you do that? It's actually not that hard. Just hydrate throughout the day. Sip water all day and drink at least 16 ounces 2 to 3 hours before your game. And then try for another 8 ounces closer to the game, maybe a half hour, 15 minutes before. I do want to point out though that maybe if you're a runner and you have a race, you don't want this much water sloshing around in your stomach. So don't worry about chugging all of this water that I just mentioned. Concentrate on kind of taking small sips and see how it feels in your stomach. A really easy way to accomplish this is just to carry around a refillable water bottle with you. I do want to note, because I do get asked this a lot, seltzer, flavored water, and things like that are acceptable options. So let's talk a little bit about sports drinks, because we get asked a lot about this too. Their marketing would make you believe that you need to be drinking a sports drink 24/7 or you're doing it wrong. Now, is that true? Not quite. studies have shown us that actually rehydrating with regular water is okay for young athletes, especially with exercise lasting less than 1 hour. However, if you're active for 90 minutes or more, and if it's a particularly hot day, you may want to consider replacing electrolytes like sodium and potassium that are found in these sports drinks. You also may want to consider sports drinks if you're a particularly salty or heavy sweater. So this is something that each person needs to determine for themselves. But if you find like a white residue on your skin or around the collar of your shirt after practice or a game, that might mean that you're a salty sweater. So consider sipping some sports drinks during and after your exercise. Now, you may have noticed that sports drinks are sometimes demonized in the media, and it may lead some of you to think that you can never have them. As with most things in nutrition that you're probably aware of now that you've gone through almost all of the modules, there is a time and a place for everything, even traditional sports drinks. For example, before, during, or after strenuous exercise is a great time to have the sugar in a sports drink. It can either give you quick energy right before or help you start rebuilding those glycogen stores right after. And it also is a really important source of electrolytes if, like we just talked about, you're sweating a lot and you're a particularly salty sweater. The important thing to keep in mind about these sports drinks is that maybe they're not the best thing to be drinking all day, every day. For hydration during the day, like during school, I would recommend sipping plain water or something fruit or veggie flavored, which you can find examples of on our exclusive Pinterest boards. But for before or after practice, or even in the middle of 400 reps on the track, there is nothing wrong with sipping some Gatorade. So the studies have shown that it isn't necessary, but that doesn't mean that you can never do it. And really, if one day you're just walking down the street and you feel like a Gatorade, please drink it. It also might be helpful to know that a large percentage of people who drink sports drinks all day, every day, are not athletes. For these people, the sugar in the sports drink may lead to excess weight gain and negative health consequences. However, you as athletes are in a different category, and you don't need to worry so much about the sugar. So again, while I might not recommend sports drinks to drink all day, every day, they definitely have their place.
All right, everyone, that is a wrap on the hydration module. And actually, that's a wrap on our entire program. I hope that by participating in the Nourished Performance program, you have learned some valuable information about how to properly fuel your body for sport. Let's continue the conversation even as we move on with our daily lives and acknowledge the fact that some of the uncomfortable things we learned about in this module need to be talked about more often so awareness can be raised and young athletes can begin to live healthier lives.